Right now, we're seeing our new political landscape come into focus. Representative Ed Case joins us now to offer his insight on the future of Hawaii and beyond. Representative, thank you for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much for having me.
And I want to say, of course, congratulations to you. Any reaction this morning regarding your race?
Well, I'm incredibly grateful to the voters for returning me again to the U.S. Congress. Every single time that I am reelected, it's a realization of tremendous responsibility, of tremendous trust, and obviously in a very difficult and divided and polarized country. And so I take that responsibility very seriously, and I do deeply appreciate the trust that the voters have given me.
And of course, this morning we are seeing a change of the political landscape. We have a president-elect, Donald Trump. The Senate is back in Republican majority. We're still waiting to see how the House fully plays out. Your reaction to all of that?
Well, you know, the voters have spoken. That's my reaction. And we can wake up this morning and be happy about that or not happy about that. But the reality is that that's what the voters of our country have decided. And every single 2 years, we make these decisions. For me, I've been in many situations in Congress. I've been in a majority and a minority in the House, a majority and the minority over on the Senate side, and a president of either party. And so I've kind of had a lot of different experiences in this area. Obviously, this is a difficult time for our country, a time when we really need our leaders to be talking the language of healing, of unity, and not of polarization. And so I hope that that happens as we go forward. But from my perspective, my job remains to represent Hawaii in Congress. That means to help lead our country. That means to do whatever I can for our Hawaii, and that means to help my constituents. And so I'm going to work with whoever I can on the issues that we can agree on and forge solutions. And I realize very much that with a president that's not of my party, my job is also to be part of the loyal opposition when that's necessary, to provide the checks and balances that our Constitution provides for, and that is my duty. And so I intend to fulfill all of that.
What would you say is the biggest issue your district is facing right now, and how will that shape your priorities?
Well, it is the economy, isn't it? And that the voters have spoken very clearly that they don't believe that we're on a solid economic footing. We can debate whether that's true or not, but the campaign is over. We have to deal with the reality of today. And the reality is that the economy is strong in some areas and shaky in others, and there's cause for concern. And if we don't do this right, we're going to end up in a bad place. And so clearly that was a major issue across the country and here in Hawaii. I was sign waving at Kapolei Hale last night, 4 to 6:30 or so, as the last voters came in to vote in person. And definitely, they were very much concerned about their households, their pocketbooks, their budgets, their children, their futures. And we can talk lofty policy, but if it doesn't result in the actual betterment of the lives of individual citizens of this country, then we're not doing our jobs. And so that's got to be my #1 priority. Another priority clearly has to be to continue to provide for a strong national defense because as we woke up this morning, you know, Russia is not a different country. The People's Republic of China is not a different country. They haven't altered their strategy. This is a dangerous strategy for our country, for our world, for our region in the Indo-Pacific, and for our Hawaii. And that's a particular area that I've focused on in Congress through appropriations on the Defense Subcommittee. And I expect that my responsibilities and my obligations and really my workload in that area is going to increase substantially in this next 2 years.
As looking at foreign policy, we have 2 conflicts right now. We have the one in Ukraine, the one in the Middle East. Depending on who you're talking to, this new president might be really bad or really good. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think one thing we know about President Trump is that we don't know what we don't know. And you know, I'm hopeful for the best and concerned that we will withdraw from the world. We need to lead this world. The rest of the world woke up this morning asking whether the United States is still the leader of the world, at least the world that we want to live in. And the rest of the world is asking, can we be relied upon to work with the rest of the world to preserve and promote democratic institutions, really the institutions of the world that have held us in peace for the most part for 3 generations and have lifted billions out of poverty, and we need to engage in the world. So I'm not part of the political discussion that says that the United States needs to disengage from the world. And so, yes, of course, we have to be engaged in trying to bring the Ukraine conflict to an end in a way that doesn't incentivize other countries to do exactly what Russia does. And we have to be involved in the Middle East. We cannot avoid that. We've learned that lesson before. If we disengage and say, well, it's somebody else's problem, it becomes our problem. And so we have a definite responsibility to work to end the conflict between Israel and the Palestinians, and to really to provide a long-term solution that will guarantee Israel's peace, but also provide for a place for the Palestinians in their own land as well.
And talking about, your priorities while you are on Capitol Hill, I know you have played a big role when it comes to Red Hill. You play a big role when it comes to our environment. Is any challenges you see with that, or maybe any shifts that you're going to make as you're trying to push policies through?
The protection of our environment and our natural resources is a special concern of mine, a passion of mine, as it is for most people here in Hawaii. I believe we understand our natural resources, and we understand our aina. We understand our natural world, and we understand that our lands, our airs, our oceans need protection. That's particularly acute here in Hawaii, where we are particularly vulnerable to environmental disruption. And this is a clear area where I'm anticipating that I may well be in conflict with the Trump administration, because I went through this with them already, and that presidency was frankly not good for the environment. The environment was under assault. And so clearly this is an area where, of course I'm going to try to find the solutions where we can, but I suspect that this is an area where it's going to need incredible advocacy to preserve our environment. In terms of other areas of natural resources and other concerns that we have here in Hawaii, of course, we have to continue to close Red Hill and to take care of lingering health concerns that people have, and get the military really on a much better footing with the public as we go into some major discussions on the military's footprint in Hawaii through leases and otherwise over the next generation. That is a really, really critical issue for all of us. We definitely have Maui still, which is very, very top of mind right now, immediately top of mind, because, of course, this Congress has 2 months still to run.
Right.
This Congress doesn't end until, January 3rd. And when I go back to Washington in a week, our number one priority is a disaster relief funding appropriations bill, which we have to get passed to keep Maui's recovery on track.
And you mentioned you were at Kapolehale yesterday. I'm sure when you were there, the line was already long. We have talked to several people who were in line till 11 p.m. last night trying to get in their vote. And we talk all the time about how we have low voter turnout in Hawaii. And then when people do go to the polls, they're stuck in long lines. How do we avoid this in the future?
Well, in the last couple of years, I think we've done the right thing, which is to try to make voting very easy, very simple, very safe for voters through mail, and I support vote by mail. And the voters have, in fact, voted by mail in general. Most people like it, but some people don't. Some people want to vote in person for whatever reason. It doesn't really matter what their reason is. If that's their preference, then we need to accommodate that. The people that I was talking to yesterday at Kapolehale, many of them had just decided to vote that day. So they were doing same-day registration, and that's the only place that they could do it. And it seems to me that what we've tried to do a little bit too much is in the rush to provide for vote by mail, which again I think I do agree with. Mm-hmm. We've kind of tried to shoehorn everybody into a one-size-fits-all box, and we cannot do that. Our number one job is to facilitate voting. And if 10% of the voters out there just are not comfortable with that, or don't have the time for it, and they need to vote on election day, then we need to anticipate that. One of the issues that was clearly on voters' minds yesterday was just the convenience of just getting a parking space so you could stand in a 4-hour line. And many voters did that. And they were coming from all over the island, so this is not Kapolei-Ewa. This is people coming from town because they didn't want to go to Honolulu because they couldn't find a place to park, or at least they perceived that. They went out to Kapolei and everybody kind of flooded one place. And so clearly we can anticipate that the next time. So either we need more centers that are better staffed to handle that, or we need one or two very, very large centers with a lot of parking and a lot of staff to move people through very rapidly. So there's clearly lessons to learn, because if we compare the presidential election of 2020, which had a very, very high turnout, to this election, we saw a significant drop-off between 2020 and 2024 in overall voting. But we saw an increase of voting in person, a significant increase in voting. So clearly people are gravitating back at some point at least to voting in person.
It'll be interesting to see all of those numbers, of course, come out. I know we did see an uptick in mail-in voting as well. And as we continue to push for more people to get out and vote, for those who didn't vote this time around, any message to them?
You know, this vote was a consequential, critical vote for our country, a vote of directions for our country, and the ripple effects of this election are gonna circulate out there far and wide. And this was an opportunity for people to say which direction they wanted the country to go in. At the presidential level, people made a decision, but I think it's also important to note that today, we're past the presidential election, but we're still a divided and polarized country. 50% of the voters, roughly, did not vote for President Trump. And so we need people to participate in our democracy, for our democracy to frankly survive as a democracy and to function the way that we need it to function. And so, I can't, for myself personally, I just can't stress enough the importance of voting, not just to elect the leaders of the day, but to say to the world that the United States, the leader of democratic institutions for 2.5 centuries now, is still strong, can still function, can still function under the original principles of the consent of the governed. And that's what's really important. And it continues to be important, and that's all of our responsibility.
Well, Representative, before I let you go, any message to your constituents this morning?
Again, just deeply grateful for the trust in sending me back to Congress for another 2 years. Most people voted for me, and many did not vote for me. But the bottom line is I represent everybody that I represent, and so I'm going to try to do the best job I can for our country, for our Hawaii, and for you, regardless of your political persuasion or how you voted. That's my kuleana.
Representative Ed Case, thank you for joining us once again this morning.
Thank you so much.